Hello folks. So this video is going to end up giving you some kind of an idea as to what we're going to be expecting of you as far as the formatting of your lab write-ups goes. If this was a normal year, during the first lab, we would hand you this little packet of engineering paper, and in the packet would be prompts that would show you what we would expect you to be able to generate in subsequent labs. And so on the top sheet, what you would find would be the title page, which is what you're looking at here. And so the title page, you're going to have a place where you can go ahead and put the title. Underneath it, you're going to have an L number, so it's going to be like L3 or something like that. It'll identify what the lab is. Years ago, I found that a problem that I had was that students would turn in labs occasionally late, and when that happened, it wouldn't be in with all of the other labs. And when I would finally get around to grading the labs, I wouldn't know when they had actually been handed in. And so because I didn't know, I would just assume that they were handed in the day that I graded them, which was not to the student's advantage. So I'm giving you the opportunity to let you tell me when you're giving me the lab, in the sense that if it's late one day, you need to let me know it's late one day. And the way you do that on the cover sheet is up here. You're going to go ahead and write the word late, and if it's late one day, you're going to put a 1. If it's late no days, you're just going to put a 0. So in most cases, that's backwards 6, but you get the idea. In most cases, you're going to put a 0 up here because it won't be late. Bottom right-hand corner, you got a spot for your name. You've got a spot to identify who your partners are. By the way, with your name, please put your full name, at least in the beginning when I'm learning the names. That'll make it easier on me. You need to put what the date is. And again, none of this information would normally be on the pads. This is all stuff you have to write out. Name, colon, give me what your name is. And then lastly, you need to identify the period. Whenever you do any kind of communicating with me, you've got to give me your period. Even when I learn all the names, I'm not going to have names attached to periods. And so I just need to know what period you're in. There are a whole lot of situations in which you can get help on these labs. It's all sort of highlighted in the About This Class document that you were supposed to have read before you actually came to class for the first time. It was in the summer reading. You need to own up to the fact that you got help. And so if you get legitimate help, that's perfectly okay. But when that happens, you need to, identify the fact that you got some help and who you got the help from. And so that's what this is down here in the bottom. It's a help from statement. If you got from nobody, you put nobody. If you get it from Ms. Dunham, you write Ms. Dunham. If it's from me, you write my name, Mr. White's name. If you get help from your mom, you put your mom. If you get it from anybody in the class, 2 or 3 people in the class, whatever, you write down. It's just your opportunity to be honest about the help that you got. It isn't going to count against you. It's not like I'm keeping record of how many times you got help. It's just your opportunity to be honest in the reporting of your write-up. So anyway, that's what your cover page should look like. It should always look like this. Moving along, the first lab of the year actually required you to look at a graph and take some data. And the data you were supposed to look at, you were supposed to identify a couple of times on a position versus time graph, and then take the positions and write them down, and then go to a velocity versus time graph for those same times and take the velocities, write them down. And so all of that's happening here. But notice that I put a blurb at the top telling you what all this is. It's a summary of the data that you were supposed to take. So I just didn't put 1 and then start sticking down a bunch of numbers. Number 2. Apparently what number 2 said was something to the effect of, we would like to check out the equation delta x equals v1t plus half at squared to see whether or not it's a good relationship, whether what's on the left-hand side is equal to what's on the right-hand side. So what would the blurb be that would go along with that question in general? Well, you're examining that relationship. And so you don't have to rewrite the entire question. That's just busy work. That's not what we're hoping for. What we're hoping for is something that will let someone who's reading the document know what you think you're about to do. Okay, so when you write down number 2, you don't then go ahead and do all of the work and then go, oh yeah, damn, I was supposed to do a blurb, and then over here somewhere, stick in a blurb. It's not the way this works. The way it works is you write down number 2, then you write the blurb, then you do the work. So anyway, apparently this was broken in, this number 2 was broken into 4 different sections, and question A effectively said, take a look at the right-hand side of that relationship and see numerically what that value is. So the blurb was, calculate what the right-hand side was, v1t plus a half at squared. That's the blurb. And so once you've done that, then you would go ahead and you would reproduce that relationship down here, and then underneath you'd put in the numbers, and then underneath that, 0.5 times whatever squared. And then underneath that, you'd come up with an answer, and then you'd box the answer. Okay. Apparently, part B said, figure out numerically what's going on with the left-hand side. Same kind of thing. You go ahead and you write out the blurb, and then you would do the work. Number C apparently said compare the two. So in the lab, it will explain to you how to do percent comparisons for the first probably lab or 2, and then from there on out, it would be expected that you know how to do this, but you would do the work. But you do a blurb first. And then down here, it would say, compare in general. And so you'd say, gee, it looked like the left-hand side's number and the right-hand side's number were the same. It looks like these kinematic equations work. In this particular lab, question number 3 was similar, but it had an entirely different relationship that you were messing with. So apparently you were messing with the V2 equals V1 plus AT. Same kind of thing. Write out the blurb, do the work. Write out the blurb, do the work. Write out the blurb, do the work. When we were doing this in class, number 4 was looking at a different kinematic relationship, except we didn't do any prompts. Okay, so this was the opportunity for the students to go ahead and write down calculate V2 minus V1 over T. And they actually did it so that they started kind of getting the feel for doing this sort of thing. So by the time they got done doing the lab, they would have had the opportunity to actually physically do the writing of blurbs, and then the derivations or the calculations, and then the writing of blurbs, etc. You're going to be hitting the ground running, so to speak, in the labs that you produce, or this first lab that you're going to produce. We're going to expect you to follow this format. I might add, this is something that's going to be very useful for you when you hit college. When you hit college, the people who are going to be grading your stuff are going to be graduate students whose primary interest is in their research. They're really not going to give much of a damn about you. And if they can't figure out what you're doing, you just won't get the points. The whole idea is readability, making it easy to be able to see what you're doing and follow what you're doing. You should look at the video that identifies how you do a derivation, because there's a format to doing derivations that makes it readable. And it's not very long, and you should take a look at it, and it also talks about blurbs. Anyway, that's pretty much it. So have a nice day.